It was one of those gray, rainy mornings when life feels heavier than usual. The kind of day where even breathing seems like too much effort. Janitor jobs aren't glamorous, and for Raj, the 28-year-old struggling to make ends meet, every shift felt like a reminder that life had other plans for him. Plans that didn't include a fancy office, a corner desk, or dreams coming true. He had long stopped hoping for anything extraordinary. He survived. That was enough. That morning, Raj was pushing a mop down the slick, empty hallway of a towering office building in the heart of the city. The place smelled faintly of disinfectant and old coffee. His uniform, frayed at the edges, clung uncomfortably to his lean frame. As he rounded a corner, something unusual caught his eye. A small black phone lying face down by the elevator. It was glossy, expensive, clearly not something someone like him would ever own. Raj froze for a second. Phones were rare finds, but lost phones? They could be trouble. He picked it up carefully, feeling the cool weight in his hands. His mind raced. Should he leave it? Hand it to security? Or try to find the owner himself? Normally, he would have handed it over immediately, but something made him pause. The phone vibrated suddenly, startling him, and a notification flashed across the screen. Call from Mr. Candlewall. Raj's heart skipped. Mr. Candlewall. The very name sent a jolt through him. He'd read about this man countless times online. One of the city's most influential tech entrepreneurs. A visionary. A leader of a company Raj had dreamed about working for since he was a teenager, scribbling resumes on scraps of paper no one would ever see. The kind of company that seemed untouchable, the kind of opportunity people spent years chasing. Yet here was his chance, staring back at him from a tiny screen, resting in his calloused hands. The irony wasn't lost on him. A poor janitor, who spent his life cleaning other people's messes, suddenly holding the key, quite literally, to a door he had only dared imagine. But with that excitement came fear. What if he made a mistake? What if this was just a prank? Or worse, what if returning the phone somehow backfired on him? Raj took a deep breath and debated his next move. His fingers hovered over the screen. He thought about all the years of late nights, unpaid bills, and dreams tucked away in the back of his mind. Could fate really hand him something so unexpectedly? And then, as he glanced at the sleek black device, a notification popped up, a message that made his stomach tighten and his heart pound. The message wasn't just from Mr. Candlewall. It was from the man himself, and it simply said, "I need this phone back, and I want to meet the person who found it." Raj froze. His life was about to change in ways he never imagined. But would it be the opportunity of a lifetime, or the biggest mistake of his life? Raj had always been careful, almost invisible. Growing up in a cramped apartment with peeling paint and a leaky ceiling, he learned early that the world rarely handed out chances to people like him. His father had passed away when he was 12, leaving his mother to work double shifts as a seamstress just to put food on the table. Raj had taken odd jobs from a young age, delivering newspapers, washing cars, cleaning shops, anything to help keep the lights on. Despite the struggles, he had dreams, small ones at first, and then bigger ones as he got older. Raj wanted more than survival. He wanted to matter. He wanted to be in a place where his efforts counted, where he could see the impact of his work. And for years, that dream revolved around tech. He had spent hours reading about startups, coding basics on borrowed library computers, and imagining himself in a sleek office with big windows, surrounded by people who inspired him. But life had a way of reminding him that dreams were luxuries he couldn't afford. At the office building, Raj had become something of a ghost. Employees barely noticed him as he mopped hallways or emptied trash cans. Security guards nodded curtly, and the receptionist sometimes smiled politely, but no one knew him. He liked it that way. It gave him time to observe, to notice details about people's routines, and sometimes, if he was lucky, he caught glimpses of the inner workings of the company he admired from afar. The irony of cleaning the halls of a place he might never belong to was not lost on him. That morning, holding Mr. Candlewall's phone, a mix of fear and hope churned in him. The man behind the phone wasn't just a wealthy employer. He was a symbol of everything Raj had been chasing quietly for years. And now, fate, or sheer luck, had shoved the opportunity right into his hands. He felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about returning a lost phone. This was a crossroads, a test. But Raj also knew how fragile moments like this could be. One wrong move, one misunderstood word, and the moment could slip away. And yet, something about the text unsettled him. Why did Mr. Candlewall insist on meeting him? Surely the company had assistants, staff, or security who could retrieve a lost phone. Why was the richest man in the city suddenly interested in a janitor? His mind raced as he considered the possibilities. Could this be a trap? Some strange social experiment? Or was it genuine? The uncertainty was almost worse than not knowing at all. And then there was the personal side of it. Raj had never felt important to anyone in a real way. Maybe this meeting could change that. Maybe it wouldn't. He glanced at the dull, wet streets outside the building's glass doors. Rain streaked the windows, blurring the city into a gray watercolor. Life had been gray for Raj for as long as he could remember. Yet, in this small, shining rectangle of a phone, he glimpsed color, a promise of something he'd never allowed himself to imagine fully. Taking a deep breath, Raj tucked the phone into his uniform pocket and forced himself to act calm, as if it were just another day. But inside, a storm was building. Meeting Mr. Candlewall could change everything, or it could shatter every hope Raj had been quietly nursing. And the moment he stepped toward the elevator, the building's security camera blinked in a way that made him feel watched in more ways than one. Raj's footsteps echoed softly on the marble floor as he approached the elevator. Every instinct in his body screamed caution, yet excitement pulsed through his veins like electricity. His hands shook slightly in his pockets, brushing against the smooth black phone that now felt heavier than ever. He kept telling himself, "It's just a meeting. Just a meeting." But even as he repeated it, doubt gnawed at him. When the elevator doors opened, Raj hesitated. The lobby was empty except for the receptionist, who looked up from her desk and gave a polite nod. He nodded back, forcing a smile he didn't feel. As he stepped inside, he imagined the possibilities. Maybe Mr. Candlewall was impressed by honesty. Maybe the man had seen something in him that Raj hadn't even noticed in himself. But then the fear crept in. What if he said the wrong thing? What if he embarrassed himself? Raj had never been around people like Mr. Candlewall, never sat across from someone whose decisions affected hundreds of lives. What if this was the one moment where he had to perform perfectly, and he failed? The elevator ascended silently, the soft hum of machinery filling the tension between his thoughts. He tried to recall every article, every interview he had read about Mr. Candlewall, every detail about the company, every key phrase that might make him sound knowledgeable. But his mind was a jumble of fear and hope, each emotion clashing violently with the other. When the doors opened, Raj froze. The office beyond was far grander than anything he had imagined. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the sprawling city below, and modern furniture gleamed under the soft glow of designer lights. For a moment, he felt like an intruder in a world he had only glimpsed from afar. Then a voice called out, calm and deliberate, "You're Raj?" He turned, and there he was, Mr. Candlewall himself, taller than Raj expected, with sharp eyes that seemed to see right through him. The man's presence was commanding, yet there was something curious in his gaze, a subtle softness that made Raj's pulse race even faster. "Yes, that's me," Raj stammered, his throat dry, his hands gripping the phone in his pocket. "Good. I hear you found my phone," Mr. Candlewall said, taking a slow step toward him. "I want to understand why you didn't just hand it over to security." Raj's mind blanked. Why me? He thought. Why does he care what I did? And in that instant, Raj realized this was more than just a lost phone. Something was happening, something that could change his life forever. But the question that burned in his mind was, what exactly did Mr. Candlewall want from him? Raj's heart pounded so loudly he thought Mr. Candlewall might hear it. The office felt simultaneously immense and claustrophobic, every sleek surface reflecting back his anxiety. He clutched the phone like it was a lifeline, unsure whether it was his ticket to a dream or a trap that could shatter everything. "Why did you keep it?" Mr. Candlewall repeated, his voice calm but deliberate. Most people would have handed it straight to security, no questions asked. Raj swallowed hard, trying to force words past the lump in his throat. I just thought. I wanted to make sure it got back to you safely," he said, unsure if he sounded brave or foolish. The man studied him for a long moment, his piercing eyes like searchlights, and Raj felt exposed. Every insecurity he had ever carried laid bare. He thought of his mother working herself to the bone back home, of every night he had stayed awake worrying about bills, of every failure that had ever made him feel invisible. And now, here he was, standing in the most powerful office he had ever seen, and somehow it mattered. Somehow, this moment could change everything. Mr. Candlewall finally nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips. You know, he said, walking slowly around Raj as if weighing him. Not everyone has that honesty. Most people just take the easy route. Raj didn't dare speak, only swallowed hard, feeling like a student waiting for a teacher's judgment. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Then the man leaned back against the desk, hands clasped, and his gaze softened, but the intensity never left his eyes. I have a job opportunity, he said slowly. The words were measured, almost casual, but they hit Raj like a lightning bolt. But it's not for everyone. It's demanding. It's different. Raj's mind raced. Could this really be happening? Was this the moment he had been dreaming about his entire life? But even as hopes surged, doubt clawed at him. Why him? Why a janitor? There had to be some catch. And somehow, Raj felt it was coming. Like the calm before a storm, the moment when you know everything you thought you understood is about to change. You have potential, Mr. Candlewall continued, his tone unreadable. Something I don't see in most people. But there's a risk, a challenge that could either define you or break you. Raj's palms were sweating, and he fought to steady his breath. Every instinct screamed to ask questions, to understand what he was stepping into. But the words stuck in his throat, replaced by a feeling he had never experienced before, that his life was about to pivot in a direction he couldn't control. And then, just as Raj opened his mouth to respond, a subtle chime from the phone in his pocket made both of them pause. The screen lit up with a new message. Raj froze. His fingers trembled as he read it, and his stomach dropped. The words on the screen weren't casual, they weren't ordinary, they were a summons. And in that moment, he realized this meeting wasn't just about a phone or a job. It was about something far bigger, something he could never have anticipated. Raj's eyes met Mr. Candlewall's, and for a heartbeat, the world seemed to hold its breath. Raj's fingers shook as he opened the message on the phone. His eyes widened, and the words seemed to leap off the screen. Meet me in my private office in 5 minutes. Come alone. His pulse raced. A private office? Alone? Every horror story he had ever imagined about powerful men and impossible situations surged to the forefront of his mind. Yet beneath the fear, there was a flicker of excitement, a sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, his life was about to change forever. He took a deep breath, tucked the phone safely in his pocket, and followed the directions through a maze of hallways he had never entered before. Each step echoed like a drumbeat, announcing him into the unknown. The anticipation was unbearable. The building felt alive, almost sentient, as though it were testing him. When he finally arrived, the door slid open silently. Inside, Mr. Candlewall was already there, standing beside a desk that gleamed like polished glass. But it wasn't the luxury that made Raj's heart skip. It was the sight of a small, neat envelope lying on the desk, addressed to him. You found my phone, Candlewall said, voice calm but sharp. And you returned it personally. That tells me more about you than any resume could. He gestured toward the envelope. Open it. Raj hesitated, then carefully lifted the flap. Inside was a single sheet of paper with simple instructions. Report to the training program tomorrow at 9 a.m. You're starting as my personal assistant. Your background doesn't matter, your integrity does. Welcome. Shock, disbelief, and joy collided inside him. Raj felt like he could finally breathe. All the years of struggle, all the nights spent dreaming quietly, had led to this moment. He had been chosen, not for wealth, not for status, but for character, the very thing he had always valued most in himself. Wait, you're serious? Raj asked, his voice barely a whisper. Candlewall's faint smile confirmed it. I don't make mistakes lightly. Raj's mind raced with excitement, imagining the possibilities. He was about to step into the world he had longed for his entire life. Then, just as he exhaled in relief, Candlewall added, almost casually, one more thing. The first task is unusual. You'll find out tomorrow. Raj's heart skipped again. The promise of opportunity was intoxicating, but the mystery, the uncertainty, kept him on edge. He realized that his life had changed forever, but the journey and the real test hadn't even begun. And as he left the office, clutching the envelope like a lifeline, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something far bigger and far stranger than he had ever imagined. The next morning, Raj arrived at the office early, clutching the envelope like a precious talisman. The sky was still tinged with gray, but inside him, a spark of hope burned brighter than ever. For the first time in years, he felt like he wasn't just surviving. He was stepping into a life that mattered. The training program was unlike anything Raj had imagined. He was introduced to teams, guided through office systems, and even shadowed Mr. Candlewall in meetings. Every detail, every interaction, felt like a lesson in a world that had previously seemed untouchable. And yet, through it all, Candlewall's presence remained a quiet challenge, demanding, exacting, yet oddly encouraging. By lunchtime, Raj was exhausted but exhilarated. His hands, once used only to mop floors and empty trash, were now holding documents, typing emails, and handling tasks that carried real responsibility. He felt alive in a way he hadn't for years. Every small success reinforced what he had long suspected. He wasn't just a janitor who got lucky. He had integrity, determination, and a quiet intelligence that had gone unnoticed until now. As the week progressed, the unusual task that Candlewall had hinted at finally arrived. Raj was asked to help organize a confidential project, something that required trust, discretion, and attention to detail. He approached it with care, pouring every ounce of effort into the work. The project was complex, yes, but for the first time, challenges felt like opportunities rather than obstacles. One afternoon, Candlewall called him into his office again. Raj's heart pounded. This time, though, there was a genuine warmth in the man's eyes. "Raj," he said, "you've done more than I expected. You've shown dedication, honesty, and courage. These qualities, they matter far more than experience or education. You've earned your place here." For the first time, Raj allowed himself to smile fully. The journey from a lowly janitor to someone trusted in the inner circle of a prestigious company had been sudden, yes, but it had also been earned. He realized that the moments he had once considered ordinary, cleaning floors, observing quietly, staying honest, had prepared him for this. And yet, even as relief washed over him, he remembered Candlewall's words. The first task is unusual. There was still mystery, still growth ahead, and he knew this was only the beginning. But for the first time, Raj welcomed the uncertainty. Life had offered him a second chance, and he wasn't afraid to take it. Walking through the now familiar hallways, Raj paused for a moment and looked out the window at the city below. The rain had stopped, and sunlight filtered through the clouds, casting a warm glow across the streets. For the first time in years, the world felt full of possibility. He smiled, not because life had become easy, but because he had finally realized something essential. It wasn't luck or timing alone that defined a life. It was character, resilience, and the courage to do the right thing, even when no one was watching. Raj's journey had begun with a lost phone, but it ended with something far greater, a reminder that sometimes the smallest choices, an act of honesty, a moment of courage, can change everything. And as he stepped into the office to face the next challenge, he knew he was ready for whatever came next.